really interesting, and maybe it would be interesting if somebody of you had experience in Macedonia or Turkey or Croatia could, with some, or have heard about similar model of cooperation. Because, for example, for Bulgaria, I haven't heard for many companies that work under this model, and usually the problem is really that the companies take from the community but do not give back anything. Is there anything you would like to comment? If you don't remember, or just go ahead.
We had once a situation where we were offered a project and we didn't finish it. And this was a big cellular provider in Turkey, and they wanted a piece of software which will work on each of their content providers, and there were thousands of them. There were companies whose infrastructure had to work with this big provider company. They wanted to use open source software, and they wanted to have the result as open source license, so that there would be no hassle in terms of having the software installed and cost anything to their small partners. That was their motivation for having.
So the main reason is economical explanation.
We have very few experiences or heard of using a commercial model for open source software, except for the companies who are internet-based and who use mainly the open source software as servers, like Linux servers or Apache or other type of software which is used for web-based activities or programs management systems. In my personal opinion, so far the experience of using, there are too few people who are who know how to deal with open source software in Macedonia on a professional level. And these people are often, if you'd like to make some sort of open source project, they would agree, but then they would do it only in their spare time, which they might not have. And often they refuse to take money, so there is no way to have deadlines.
Yeah.
And probably if we have more people who are dealing with open source software, that's why we're emphasizing building of capacity. If we have more people who are into this world, then there will be one portion of them who are capable or interested in doing professional work as freelancers and form teams, and but at this point it would be very unreliable to set up a company like this.
But you know, sounds very strange to me, because you just said that you have in Macedonia very few people who can support or provide solutions for open source. But I remember you said about the project with the Ubuntu migration, not migration, but installations. You said that under this USAID project, about 5,000 computers, desktops are installed. And you said that the installations were done by local experts.
Yes, but they were. It took a long time because the whole project was done under USAID contract with a local internet provider, and this local internet provider was supposed to make this wireless network between the schools and also prepare the computers. So it was supposed. It took longer than expected. Probably because they might have used they had a team of people who were there, but probably they were not. Only few of them are really experts on a professional level.
And how long did it take?
More than a year.
A year?
Or if it's the same machines, they just need to do one and clone the others. So that's how it's done. So it's not only 5,000 one by one.
Yes, probably they use some sort of automatization, but we're not really aware of what they did.
But we don't know
Yeah.
how they did it, but probably they use some code series.
But it took a long time to prepare the whole project, and it's still we still don't have information about how it functions in the real environment. It started in September, but we don't know how many schools are actually using the internet, how many schools are allowing children to use these computers, at what rate do the classes commence and stuff like that. That information has not been publicly released. And even though there is some sort of potential, as I said, with this widespread installation, probably it's not used, and it's definitely not used to produce more human resources in the open source.
Okay, well then, thank you. Nobody has any comments. Then,
Actually, maybe we could have a few comments about the previous session.
yeah, sure. If anybody wants to comment, yeah, okay, sure.
Okay, I have a few
Yeah.
thoughts. I want to remind about the history of open source. It existed before European Union started funding it, and it existed because it was the right thing to do for the professionals who are in the software business. Because as software became a commodity, we started being detached from our products and means of producing software because of the commercial licenses. So there was a huge support behind open source licenses at a certain point in the development of software market. So it is important to remember that the core conflict here is about the interests of the public and specifically the professionals in the software business versus the private interests. So as much as I agree that we should avoid confrontation, as Philip has noted, we sometimes have to stress that there is a confrontation at the core of it, and I think it's worth it to know that open source is the right thing to do for protecting the public interest. And the second point, I think it's important to focus on the computer professionals to get the critical mass of support in terms of having these issues understood at certain levels, especially in the governmental level. So computer professionals should be considered as a strategic focus point for working on open source strategy.
Yeah, but maybe computer professionals, or what do you mean by computer professionals? Because
As a community,
okay.
I mean, they should, the awareness that open source is the right thing to do for performing this task is important. Because I work as a computer teacher, and the reason that we have chosen open source was simply because otherwise my students and I wouldn't have the chance to perform this profession without paying so much licenses to some companies whose software we design. So, and I realize that new generation computer programmers are not really aware of these strategic issues about their profession. So it's important to focus on that.
Well, if I can add something, we are not advocating strictly avoiding confrontation as I mean, if there is something wrong done, it's of course proper and constructive to say that it's wrong or to oppose any wrongdoing. But we have found out that in most of the advocacy efforts that we have witnessed, from our experience in different areas, when if you try to go just to portray something, some solution that has been proposed or has been in the works as evil and don't instead of facilitating discussion, you just attack something. It's not working. But it's better if you create an atmosphere for democratic discussion where each side can have opportunity to explain and to have more interaction and and then it's usually even sometimes short term, but even long term, it's better to have that type of approach than just severing all ties with whatever is going on and just being right but not productive.
No, I agree and sympathize with that. But there is a conflict.
Yeah. But of course, if there is something wrong done, it's right to say what's going on, but just not to monopolize the truth in a way. Not to think that anybody has the monopoly on the truth. That everybody should have the right to explain and to argue.
Yes, alienating anyone doesn't really help.
Especially those who are supposed to explain are those more powerful than you or making the decision in the country.
Yeah, maybe that to start, when we consider the deployment and adoption of the public administration, making the arguments and emphasis rather than on the technology but on political as a political choice, as a social choice might be more appropriate and important in some respects. It's not, using free software, it's not only technological choice, it's not because it's more efficient, but it's rather a political choice. So I think that should be one of the important points around the lobbying with the public administrators. The media and the instruments of this arguments are interoperability, transparency, open standards, and such kind of things, and vendor independence. So I guess these concepts and these terms must be on the first list, and they should be more emphasized when you try to convince people.
Yeah, I would like to add, for me there's the political choice, but I think that on many other places when you mention political, that actually is counterproductive. So I think that whoever deals with free software these days should use like tactical approaches. So to say political where it's appropriate, and to say economical where it's appropriate. And what surprised me actually was that when Microsoft did the research of their tactical approach to ruin the free software movement, what they realized is that whenever they used the philosophical kind of context, that it failed. People just didn't care about freedom, and they just ignored that when it happens. And what actually ruined Microsoft in that sense, or what they found significant, is that the price is zero. And the other thing is that code is open, so that it's transparent. So people can actually realize what does that mean when you say that you're not stuck with just one vendor, you can choose whatever. And that's why they actually stopped using the tactics saying like, oh, free software is communist, it's not an American way, and all of the crap which they used to do. So then they also came up with that shared, what is the name of it?
Shared software.
Shared software, shared source.
Shared source.
Yeah. So it just came up with something to actually confuse the public. So they started to use shared source and trying to say that there is no big difference in that all of the benefits which you have from the open source you could have with the shared source. They were not, luckily for us, they were not so successful with that, but that's kind of so
Also, when dealing with governments and other type of entities, they need to have some insurance that in case the deal fails. And for example, big commercial vendors of clothes or software have that advantage that they're big companies who say, well, we put our reputation on the line with selling you this software. While the open source software is not guaranteeing. So if there are ways to be found to provide some sort of legal guarantees, continuous support, and I think that there would be much more successes for the open source community than so far, because really bureaucrats have to have some sort of assurance in case the deal fails.
It's not only about legal assurance. I think that maybe computer companies should play a major role in the open source software movement, because maybe if they provide support for open source, then businesses and also government institutions would be more keen to use open source software. It not only provides legal assurance but also technical support, because they cannot, for example, especially for business companies, which I think are a very important sector that can be a potential user of open source software. They cannot rely their business on a software that does not have support, because they want to make profit. It's the same thing for government institutions. Reliability is very important, and that's why I think that computer companies should play a major role. Maybe there should be more companies in Macedonia as everywhere that provide support for open source software, professional support. Support should not be based on the enthusiasm of a group of people.
yeah,
That's why I think that what Open Integra is doing is very important.
yeah, I agree. But there are, it's actually quite hard to. That's the problem, because business comes always from some kind of constellation from the market. So yeah, I agree completely. But Microsoft just did a lot of things in the past to make that monopoly. So now we deal with monopoly, not with the free market where there are some arguments. And for example, Pliva, that pharmaceutical company in Croatia, they spinned off their IT department. So that IT department provides solutions. So when they provided a couple of times free software solutions, they were like 3 times cheaper. And then the others from the how to say it, from the contest or from the who were like their competitors when they were when they proposed their solution, they got sued for dumping prices. Really?
Well, I had
Because
some.
the others just wanted like got them to the courts to explain why they have such a cheaper prices than the others. So in that sense, it's quite. And the people who actually sued them, they knew what it's all about. So it was not like that they don't understand it and that they don't know about free software. It's the game. It's a game with actors, and those actors are competing for money, and then it's kind of very, very complex.
In that respect, probably the procurement process, the software procurement for the public bodies, that should be refined. That's one of the important reasons. Free software companies, they are not able to join this negotiation process to get the deal. So that's somehow one of the, apart from legally supporting that the government should use open source, practically they should refine how this procurement process should function and work. That will be one of the things. So in such situations, then free software companies will be able to give the support and give the service and development of software I have to add one more thing regarding this political choice. Maybe we should define it as a techno-political choice, which is independent techno-political choice. It's independent from being a leftist or a communist or a capitalist. It's, in long term, when you mention, when you say it's priceless, but it's not enough in some kind of short-term total cost of ownership analysis. You see that they can easily prove that it's much more expensive when you use open source software. But when you drive upon a kind of techno-political argument, you can say that in long term, considering the stakeholders as public bodies and the citizens and the whole administrations within this model, in long term, mid and long term, you have cheaper total cost of ownership. So I see this dangerous always also to talk about this openness and the price having zero price, and because the analysis and the research shows that the cost of licenses is just maybe less than 10%. So in that term, when you develop kind of business upon the open source software, you should talk, maybe you should emphasize the service and maintenance, which is very important because it's independent from the vendor, and also it develops and it contributes back to the society. So in that terms, when I say techno-political choice, these points and facts should be underlined, I guess. So we are talking about different ways of thinking of doing business and developing technology. So the veritiness of this technology and the business model based on this technology should be underlined and should be more apparent when we deal with the topic.
Yeah, we need to deal with quite wide spectrum of problems because countries in transition. So it's not just that. So if you're not well developed, the big companies are getting there because there are big companies, very big, like IBM, Marvell, and the others. So they realize that that's the way how they should compete with Microsoft. But if you have an economy where there are no such a big companies, where everybody depends on Microsoft, if they go and raise, then it's another solution. And so, it's another situation. And I think that probably the worst situation is when you are just not poor enough to actually to be scared by the price which you need to give, because it's part of the globalization where there's international pressures that you need to legalize all of the software, at least in the big businesses and in governments. So then they will say like, okay, yeah, we don't have money, so we won't pay. And if you're not like rich enough, like in Croatia, then it's also that they have enough money to pay to the Microsoft, because there is not also enough of control from public, which would say you are spending our money, our taxpayers' money, and so the situation where some approaches are successful. I think it's very kind of complex in a way that what worked in Spain won't work in Croatia, and vice versa. And it's always like hard to actually get what are the combination of economical, political, long-term development arguments where you can be successful.
And on that also the piracy element.
Yeah, exactly.
Because on the Balkans, it's people are just not used to paying for software.
Yeah, the cost is the same actually.
Yeah, the actual license cost is the same. It's free. Yeah, that's
interesting that free operating system use is more in the countries where piracy is not very common, like US or.
So actually, that's a good point to emphasize when advocating open source, because it's legal. And for example, one of the things that was emphasized in the Microsoft campaign for legalization is that if it's not legal, if it doesn't have the Microsoft holographic seal or whatever. I mean, I'm paraphrasing or reading too much into what they were saying in the advertisement, but that's the message, that if it's not by the company approved by the government, it might be illegal. So, and you might get sued if you use it. So, but also that's an opportunity for the open source movement. If open source movement manages to present the open source as a legal alternative, as an anti-piracy, painless cure for piracy, because you, instead of using the pirated Microsoft Office, you use legal and also free OpenOffice, and then but you also need to have the government repression of the pirated on the basis of piracy for this model to work, because if there is only propaganda against piracy and not people going into jail for it, then nobody cares for open source or for free and open source software. But when they start arresting people or putting fines on people who use pirated software, then you have a real basis to show that this is something useful to the public. It's not some vague concept, because people really, most of them are not aware of the ethical differences or the technical differences or any other thing that is important and makes open source movement different from proprietary source movement. Generally, there is much need of capacity building of the populations. But if you can tell them, well, if you use this pirated thing, an inspection will come and get 500 euros from you in court, and if you use this, it will cost you a few hours to adjust to the new environment. And that's a really powerful thing. But we have to have different sort of general environment to implement.
It's quite sad that we need to use the argument of the state instruments of power and force to actually convince people to use free software.
I'm really
So like nowadays, so actually we could like wish the worst situation in that sense, so that people can switch to free software. Like, we need more police in the army. Yeah. Then they will, yeah, it's very complex. And in that sense, I think that there are parallel articulation of the whole thing. Because at the same time, I feel quite fine to say that there is no piracy at all. But I wouldn't start that kind of discussion when we talk with state about policy. It's more like philosophical and theory, which will raise more and more in the future. I don't know if you heard of piracy political party in Sweden. People who actually started, and they founded the political party of pirates, and then go to the elections. So it's kind of a joke, but I think that it's also it raised that issue quite well, where you can articulate that, in certain or these days technological level, that maybe we should completely rethink the definition of what piracy is, when you have 99% of people criminals by the legal framework which we actually do. So in that sense, it's very tricky, and I wouldn't like to see that for example, free software advocates are slow in kind of to support the legal system and the definitions which are stay at the moment from the side of Hollywood and the others. So to be stronger advocates of that philosophy, trying to argue. So I don't know. I'm confused actually. There are some serious contradictions in the whole story. So that's what I'm trying to say.
It's also very important that this piracy thing is very important to the transition countries, especially accession countries, because it's one of the things that gets mentioned if somebody likes to block their entry into the, let's say, EU, I mean, it's also a political issue. Some countries who have a higher level of piracy than others got into the, let's say, EU faster or will get, then, but it's still used as an argument, and on a political level it's very strong, because whatever would be presented as blocking the way to the EU is something like evil monster for, and nobody would be seen supporting something like that on the political spectrum, even except some very marginal political players who actually have no power in the decision-making process. So it's issue that needs addressing still, even though there are many contradictions. And
I would propose that let's hide that we are pirates till we got inside, and then let's say that we are pirates as a political struggle. So, because at the moment saying that is completely counterproductive, but I think that for the people who are inside of the European Union and who are part of that political system, when they start to bring that issue of saying like, yes, we are pirates, metaphorically, but we are not criminals, I think that that's also a very important issue about this particular thing. But if you are not inside of European Union, it's just too demanding position which you can't articulate, because they will say, yes, you are talking about it because you are a thief and you just want to steal the fruits of our Western civilization.
There's something I don't get. What's the connection between the free software and open source and the piracy?
What's the connection?
Yeah. Why are we going to say that we are pirates? Is the question.
I didn't want to say that free software in that free software movement are the pirates, but when I was talking about it, that's like our cultures. So when we talk about Bulgaria, not just a very tiny part of Bulgaria which are free software movement, then we could say that it's a big piracy around us. And especially when we come to the culture field, then I'm quite sure that even free software, or actually I have proofs that free software movement people are not interested in listening just free music, even